It's another adventure with hiddenincatours.com. These are sites that we recently visited and will be in upcoming videos. We began on a high-speed boat, a hydrofoil, on Lake Titicaca, going from the Bolivian side to the Peruvian side. And while in Bolivia, we visited the island of the Moon, and this was a sacred place during Inca times to the Virgins of the Sun, who were the special chosen women. In some ways you could call them nuns of a sort, but of course not of the Catholic faith, but of the Inca faith. And this is where I was able to experiment with my new baby quadcopter called Horace. And this is an example of what Horace was able to view here on the island of the Moon on Lake Titicaca. So the quadcopter has a range of approximately 1 mile, but I was not foolish enough to let it out of my sight, as it was a rather expensive investment. But you can see the excellent quality of 4K video that this little pocket quadcopter can do. And then we made it to Peru, and this is an ancient site called Amaru Muru, or Amaru Muru, and it's a portal. No one knows who made it, and no one knows how old it is, but it was carved straight into red sandstone bedrock. So what you notice is there's a central doorway, and then one on the left and one on the right. And as we approach and go right up to the face of the stone, you can see this depression. Some people say that's where you should put your crown chakra, or other people believe it's your third chakra that you should place in that area for whatever religious belief system you want to utilize. As in the third chakra being the solar plexus. And then here we see fine detail of the actual carving into the bedrock. It's really quite crude, so this is not an example of lost ancient high technology. But again, no one knows what culture did this and during what time period. And then just a final view of this interesting site called Amaru Muru or Amaru Muru. It has two different names, and it's very close to the highway on the way from Puno in Peru to the border with Bolivia. Next, we're at a site called Silustani. And Silustani is where these giant towers once existed. They were destroyed by some kind of ancient cataclysm. Some of them are square, but the majority of them are round. And this shows you the size of the blocks. Many tons in weight, some of them with these curious knobs on them. The stone is basalt. And we asked several local people. They don't know where the quarry is, but you see the incredible tightness of the fit. This could only likely have been achieved using some form of high technology. Next, we're at Kenuani, and almost no one knows about this location. It took me 5 years to find it. Even the local police didn't know where it was. But we finally tracked it down. And it's located about 5 kilometers inside Peru if you go from the border with Bolivia. Now, it clearly seems to be a ceremonial site of some kind, but it's unknown what culture achieved it. Of course, most people will say the Inca, but it's unknown. It was unlikely that it was an Inca construction, and unlikely that it was a Tiwanaku culture creation. So it remains a mystery, and we will be going back there in November 2019 on tour. So this is going to be a series of little videos using the quadcopter and also on foot to show you Kenawani in detail. The material is a hardened volcanic tuff, and there are many staircases. Some are straight, some are curved. Again, the consensus is that it was a ceremonial site of some kind, but what culture created it remains elusive. It's only about a quarter of a kilometer from the highway going from the border of Bolivia with Peru. So you can actually see it on the right-hand side. It's right on the shore of Lake Titicaca. Notice the heavy weathering of those stairs, and that semicircle appears to have really intriguing acoustic characteristics. So was it some kind of auditorium of some kind, ceremonial seating? It directly faces the lake, slightly off south, or slightly off due south. But again, who made it and why, like many ancient sites in Peru and Bolivia, remains elusive. The heavy weathering of the stairs, whoops, okay, here you can see what these flat surfaces look like. And the heavy weathering of the stairs would make it appear that it was used over a very long period of time. But again, the fact that many local people we discussed about it with didn't know where it was made it quite difficult to find. This was our second time visiting the site, and it is definitely part of our November 2019 tour at Hidden Inca Tours. Now this is back in Bolivia on the island of the sun, and this is a sun temple constructed by the Inca. Our next location. Now we're back in Peru again, and this is called the Fertility Temple, and the reasoning behind that will become quite obvious as we go along. So here Horus is looking down. You can see the phallic-shaped basalt stone objects. Some people think that they are mushrooms, but the climate is not conducive to growing mushrooms. So it's more likely that they are phalluses. The Catholic Church is almost next door, so they most likely went in there at one period of time and turned some of these phallus shapes upside down. The fact that it wasn't completely taken apart by the Catholic Church is quite a wonder. It's controlled locally by the small town. There's the Catholic Church. Some of the stones of the Catholic Church were made from this little temple. You can also notice that there are two walls. There's an outer wall and an inner wall. The outer wall is megalithic. The inner wall was created later. And now another little flight over top, looking down at a bunch of school children. And as you can see, it's less than 1 kilometer from Lake Titicaca on the Peruvian side. And this is our final location. This is called Cutimbo, and it's located about an hour outside of the city of Puno. Very rugged, volcanic landscape. And it's here that we find a series of burial towers called Chullpa. So here the little quadcopter Horus is flying over top of one of the Chullpa. This is not extremely well made. There are others more or less in the same location that are much finer. They look like they were made thousands of years ago utilizing some form of lost ancient high technology. And so here we're getting a little more detail of what this Chullpa tower looks like. Again, most are circular, but occasionally you'll find one which is square. So up at the very top of the mountain next door are relatively massive Chullpa towers. These look like they were made with lost ancient high technology. There are two round ones and one square one. It's a climb of about half an hour to get up there. And once again, just like to thank you so much for being a subscriber here at my YouTube site. Cheers for now.